What's going on? Welcome to episode 2 of the Hydro Mind podcast. Kyle Russ here with Hydro Mind. Today we're going to be talking about the Landlocked survival guide. So how to stay in shape when you're landlocked. I am the world's leading expert on this topic. Even though I grew up on the coast, I'm 35 now. When I was 25, I took a job that required me to travel away from the coast. So it was a mining job, operating heavy equipment. And it was great because I was single at the time. I would stay in camp for a month or a few weeks or whatever, and I could go wherever I want. And I had a lot more money, had a lot more free time. So that was great for my surfing trips. I could go on the trips I couldn't afford, but I was suddenly starting to struggle in the water. So when I first started, I started looking around the world, the internet, asking people all the best ways to stay in shape for surfing. Nobody knew anything. The best information out there was terrible, to say the least. And so as far as I know, I'm not the only landlocked surfer. I'm not the only landlocked surfer that knows how to stay in shape, but the only one who put information out there, as far as I can tell. So I call myself the world's leading expert on landlocked survival. So this is what we're talking about here. So we're gonna be doing the top 3 do's and don'ts of being landlocked. So let's get into it. Starting off with the don'ts, because this is super important stuff. You don't want to be wasting your time. You're spending a lot of money on those surf trips. You're spending a lot of money on your surfing equipment, and you're spending your time, your effort, your energy to get out there. You want to make sure you aren't doing things that are gonna kill it. So you want to eliminate these first. Number 1 is don't do long form cardio, death march cardio, because those things like running, jogging, elliptical, rowing machines, all these things. Science now shows it's almost indisputable that sprinting works better in such a short amount of time, but that long form cardio, if you're going to, it's just another barrier of getting things done, because the more friction you add between you and your workout, the less likely you are to do it. So you might more likely to skip workouts, but it takes a huge amount of time for less results, and it's more punishment on your body. As well, those popular types of long form cardio, running and jogging, are lower body only. So when you're out surfing, it's like running with your arms. You're constantly paddling. It's upper body. So you are really wasting your time doing any form of long form cardio. Now, number 2 of what not to do is do not lift heavy weights. I know it's super, super tempting. It feels great to lift heavy weights. I like doing it too. But those traditional bodybuilding style workouts, bench presses, heavy squats, all those machines that isolate muscles is horrible. So number 1, if you lift heavy, you're gonna put on too much mass, which will kill your endurance. So for endurance, you want to be doing 25 repetitions and up for muscular endurance, and anything below that is not good. And even around the 8 to 10 rep mark, max rep, that's horrible for endurance. Great for aesthetics, but not good for performing in the water. So avoid heavy lifting. And the second part of heavy lifting is that especially bodybuilding style workouts, is they isolate muscles. So the body doesn't actually work like that. That's an artificial movement isolating muscles. Your body works as a system, everything moving all at once. So you want to do workouts that incorporate multiple muscles, functional movements, squatting, bending, lunging, twisting, pulling, pushing, all that stuff mixed together. And especially when you're out there surfing, it's a liquid environment that's constantly changing super fast. You have to not only be functional, you have to be fast with it, and you have to have a lot of endurance and stuff. So that's super important not to lift heavy weights. And number 3 of what not to do, this one is insanely important and everyone's been guilty of it, is do not wait until 2 weeks out before you start working out to get in shape for surfing. I know what it's like to procrastinate. Procrastination is the ultimate killer, because you're thinking, okay, I'm gonna start working out soon. Oh, my surf trip's starting to come up. Oh, it's a month away. I better start. Oh, I'll wait another week. And then finally, when it comes down to crunch time, oh no, I only got 2 weeks left. So you start to do like a boot camp sort of at home or whatever. And then, so you kind of get some results, but also when you do a boot camp, kind of punish your body for 2 weeks before your trip, you end up putting your body in recovery mode when you're on your trip. So you'll never ever get your peak performance that you want. The only and best solution is to maintain your strength all year long, so you don't have to get ready, because you stay ready. And then that's another important part about the long form cardio. You want to do things that you can do every day easily at home in a short amount of time. So that's super, super important. So don't do any of those. And the 3 things to do, super, super important. Number 1, the most important thing that you should be doing to stay in shape for surfing is paddle strength. It's all about catching waves, right? But catching waves is only 1 to 10% of the time out there. The sport should almost be called paddling, because you're spending so much time getting past the break, maneuvering yourself in the lineup, paddling into waves. So if you're gonna do anything, if only do one thing, it should be paddle strength. And paddle strength can be done wrong, but the simplest way to do it is with the paddle bands. And you'll hear me talk about this a lot. So you simulate the paddle stroke perfectly, you simulate the resistance of the water. Also, going into point number 2 is the breath training. You simulate the breath training. So I talk about paddle strength as more waves, but breath training is about better waves. So you're gonna be holding your breath over and over while doing an endurance sport. You don't know how long you're gonna hold your breath, how often, and you don't know when you're gonna come up. You gotta be able to recover fast. So paddle strength is your vehicle, oxygen is your fuel. So you wanna do breath training. Super, super important. You can't miss this part. And the third most important part is, so you have to have a strong cardio system as well. So that's your lungs, your diaphragm, and your heart. But we don't do long form cardio. So the alternative is high intensity interval training. So doing sprints. So the best way to do it, shown by science, is called the Tabata method. So it's sprinting for 20 seconds, resting for 10 seconds, and then doing it 8 times. So if you do the math on that, that's 4 minutes of cardio of hardcore sprinting. And so the ultimate bonus tip for what to do is to combine all 3. So you want to do the paddle strength, but you want to add the breath training. So you want to be holding your breath on an exhale while you're paddling. So it goes like this. You exhale, all your oxygen out, hold your breath, paddle for as long as you can until you can't anymore, and then you recover. And then you stop your paddle workout, and you give yourself a couple recovery breaths, say 3. And then you start your workout again on an exhaled breath hold. And that's how you include it all together. So, if you're gonna be landlocked, you don't have to be landlocked, you just have to be out of the water for any of this stuff to work. So if you have a job that keeps you out of the water, if you have kids that keep you out of water, quarantine or an injury or whatever it may be, isn't just for landlocked surfers. But so this is exactly what I'm doing right now, because this is the longest I've ever been landlocked before in my life. I brought my wife out here to where I'm at working. So we just had a baby, and so I wanted to be there for that. So we're all together, and then we're supposed to go on a surf trip, but then quarantine hit. And so we're supposed to be on a trip right now. It's June in 2020, but that got canceled, so we're still here. And we got another one coming up in August, but that is looking pretty sketchy right now too. So we were supposed to go to Haida Gwaii, where my parents live and where I'm from. And the waves are usually pretty good on the west coast there, so I'm not really sure. So anyways, so I practice what I preach. I'm doing all this landlocked surfing stuff, all the paddle strength, all the breath training, all the high intensity intervals, and a whole bunch of other awesome stuff. So I practice what I preach. The world's #1 leader in training for surfing out of the water. So if you like this kind of stuff, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Maybe hit like, subscribe, hit comment, and let me know what you want to hear. My name is Kyle Russ with Hydro Mind Podcast. Thanks a lot for listening.